Let's talk about the NECC first. It's been Churubusco's conference for the last 4 or 5 years. They're unbeaten this year, but they had a tough time with a feisty Angola team. 14-7 was the final. Is this the year that maybe the Eagles are finally supplanted at the top of the NECC?
Yeah, I think they very well could be. They're doing what Churubusco normally does. They run the ball really well. Obviously, they rely on Cody Conwell a lot, but they have Kane Johnson and Bo Barkley and Adrian Springer, some other guys that can run the ball. You know, they came into this season saying, hey, we may even pass the ball some this year, but they only threw the ball 7 times the other night, so I guess that's passing up in Churubusco. But, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just run the ball. Here's the problem with Churubusco. They're going to wrap up the season with a baton death march of 3 games of Culver Military Academy, which is out of conference. But then they have Fairfield and then at Lakeland. And those 2 teams only have 1 loss right now between the 2 of them. I don't see any way possible Busco comes out of that 3-0 out of that 3-game stretch. They'll beat West Noble this weekend, but I think that they're going to drop one of those games, probably at Lakeland, to wrap up the season. That'll be a really, really interesting game. So, yeah, Fairfield, Lakeland, they're going to have something to say about that race.
And if you're a fan of statistics, Lakeland and Busco fairly even. Busco's defense just a little bit tougher. Lakeland's offense has been just a little bit more potent this season. We mentioned the ACAC. It's a 2-horse race right now. Heritage, which I think has surprised most people because they graduated that huge senior class, they're unbeaten in conference right now. So is Leo. No surprise. So the question I pose to you, are the Patriots for real?
It depends on what your definition of for real is. Are they a really good team? Absolutely. They have really come together. They had a lot of guys in much more significant roles this year than they were a year ago. So each week they've gotten better and better. And, you know, you can kind of statistically take that New Haven game that they opened the season with and throw that out the window. Everybody loses at New Haven. You know, they'll probably go undefeated this year at home. But Heritage has gotten better each week, so credit them for that. However, they haven't gotten to the point where I think that they can compete with Leo. I think Leo's just head and shoulders above everybody else in that league. Heritage is giving up 33 points per game right now. And Leo, they can score in bunches, and they can score a number of ways. They had fumble recoveries last week, and they've had interception returns. They've scored on special teams. You know, Logan Leiter and Jordan Hisson can run you to death. So, in fact, Leo, they get up and they don't even need to pass. And so I think they only threw 3 times last week. So if Leo gets up, it's going to be no secret. They'll just run the ball and control the clock. And I think that's exactly what will happen. Doesn't take away from the nice season Heritage has had this year, but Leo is head and shoulders above everybody else in that league.
Leo and Heritage squaring off in Week 6 for a potentially ACAC championship deciding game. If the Patriots have any hope in this one, they're going to need another big game from Branson Dawson, the quarterback, 270 yards, 3 touchdowns in a 33-27 win over Adams Central last Friday. Let's look ahead now to some of the games in the SAC this coming week. We touched upon it a little bit. Snyder taking on Northside. The Redskins have some pop. Mike Levet has done a really nice job at quarterback. Is there enough firepower there to upend the Panthers?
Absolutely there is. And if you drafted Mike Levet #1 pick in your fantasy draft, you are very happy this year. He is really playing well. He can hurt you with his feet and his arm. Over 300 yards of offense the other night against Mishawaka. Now, they threw 32 times against Mishawaka because they were trailing a lot of the game, so they were going to throw and try to get back into the game. They don't like to throw that much. They want to have a little bit more balanced attack. But Northside has the ability to really beat some people this year. Their 3 losses are combined 9 points. So they're this close to being unbeaten. And I really like Northside in this matchup, especially after last week's shaky performance a little bit from Snyder. Snyder's down this year. This has turned into a really good rivalry over the last couple of years. Ryan Hall's got that Casey Kolkman had that program going to a degree. I think Ryan Hall's taken it to another level, and I really like the Northside-Snyder rivalry. I think it's really entertaining. Going to be a great game this weekend. My money's on Northside, though.
Which would be a little bit of revenge given how last year's matchup played out. Snyder and Northside. At Northside, it was a rainy, muddy slugfest that the Panthers managed to eke out. A couple other games that we already touched upon a little bit. Wayne taking on Dwenger. It's been a good season for the Generals so far, but you think this is the Saints game to lose?
Absolutely it is, but don't underestimate that Wayne defense. They've got some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Lewis could tell you all about that. But, yeah, I think there's just too much depth. I mean, you know, you're a little intimidated when you watch Dwenger get off the bus because they just keep on coming and keep on coming. And you're like, how many players do they have? And so that depth and that talent will ultimately wear down the less depth that Wayne has.
And then the two potentially intriguing games in the NHC this week, Belmont taking on Carroll. It's Columbia City and New Haven. You think the favorites win in this one? Carroll and New Haven both walk out with wins?
No. I think Belmont will end up winning this game. It wouldn't surprise me if Carroll ends up winning because Carroll is mad right now. They're not happy with how they played the last 2 weeks. They're going to have a really good week of practice this week. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they get the passing game going, which also opens up the running game, and that hard-hitting defense really shows up, and they take care of the ball. They've turned the ball over a lot the last 2 weeks. That gets rectified this week, so it will be a competitive game. But Belmont has a lot of confidence right now, and if they get a little bit of lead, they can run that ball and eat clock up like Larry Getz's teams love to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if Belmont pulls off that upset. Columbia City and New Haven, no, I can't see that happening. Columbia City just doesn't have the defense.
On a note for the Carroll game, I'll say this. Drew Tranquill runs angry when he's happy.
Yeah.
Can't imagine what he runs like when he's angry.
I've seen Justin Tranquill do the same thing. So, I mean, Drew's great, but Justin's right there with him. I saw him on a drive against New Haven just run power, power, power. And he was tough. They couldn't stop him.
And then finally, again, we mentioned the big matchup in the ACAC. Leo will reign supreme once again as your final team.
Absolutely. I'm counting down the days till Leo's in the NHC so we can see them really play a competitive schedule and have great matchups every week.
Going into week 6 of the high school football season, if you can believe it. It's flying by. He's Tom Davis. You can catch his work daily in the News Sentinel at newssentinel.com. I'm News Channel 15's Joe Whalen. We'll see you next week.